Alright, listen, I have three things to tell you in this video. The first thing is that while I'm recording, the camera is going to be shaking, but don't worry about that. Even if it's shaking, keep watching. The second thing is that it's a new view. A lot of you guys always make fun of the room that I'm in, so I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to have a new view so that you guys stop making fun of me. But the third thing is that I have this a bit of like controversial statement that whenever say it to people, they're always like, Habibi, reality does not work that way. But from what I've seen, I'm pretty sure it does work that way. Now that thing is that if you want to know your path in the afterlife, like if you're going to be good or bad in the afterlife, just judge how you're feeling in this present moment right now. Now the only thing is that there isn't really a hadith that's going to come and tell you where it's like or like an ayah. Well, I haven't really even like tried to look for it, but there's nothing that's going to come and tell you that says, oh, like if you want to know your path in the afterlife, just look at how you're feeling right now. There's no such thing. These are just like modern words that I'm using just to explain to you how basically what's going to happen to you in the afterlife. Once again, though, it's not 100% sure, but look at this. So obviously, I've talked about this so many times, which is the emotional guidance skill. Basically, the emotional skill. I told you how the entire world, bro, the entire world, it runs on emotions. All of it runs on emotions and feelings. If you want to buy something, you're buying it because of emotions and feelings. If you want to do something, you're doing it because of emotions and feelings. Now, if you look at this, so if you're basically feeling emotions that are high right here in the present moment. So, for example, if you're always feeling gratitude, that means like if you die in this state right now, you're gonna be at a good place. But then if you die in a state of like when you're feeling jealousy or like grief or fear or depression or guilt and all that stuff, that means you're at the lowest of the low. And it's so funny because even when they're trying to measure emotions, they measure in frequencies, right? So when they're measuring it, they would see that the higher the frequency, the more like the better the emotion is, and the lower the frequency, the worse the emotion is. And that's actually something crazy because the whole point of this whole video is that there's actually a way to fix all the years that you've had right now that you've lived instantly instantly, bro. So let's just say this entire life that you're living right now, it's always been this life of sin, for example, where you're always like feeling guilt, you're always feeling bad, you're always feeling like depression and all that stuff. You know what you're supposed to be doing? From what I've noticed, or not even from what I've noticed, from what I've actually done, is that there's this thing that's so simple. If you just go back to it, everything else gets fixed. Now in Islam we call it Toba, but most people when they hear Toba, they don't even know what it actually means. So listen, right now, as you're living, as you're watching this video, you have to like, I don't know how to say it because words don't do this justice, right? But you have to realize that there's something right now that's always watching you, right? And so once you become aware of this thing, this being that's always watching you, there's a lot of people like like Sufi sheikhs and all that, like high sheikhs, right? They always say it's like this in of itself can actually heal all disease. This can heal all disease because here's what happens when you're aware, and we're talking about Allah. When you're aware that Allah is always watching you in this present moments right now, it's almost like you bypass the thinking mind, you bypass the conscious mind, and you go back to what is. I mean, think about it. It's like if someone dies, right? Whenever someone dies, immediately we say inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To Allah we belong and to Allah we're going back. Like, do you know what that means? It means we came from Allah and to Allah we're going back. When any calamity or problem happens, the very first thing you do is just say the statement because it reminds you that our home is that. So our home is to go back to Allah, which basically means, bro, basically means like if right now you're living like all this like depression, this guilt and all that stuff, the only thing you need to do, the only thing you need to do is just realize that Allah is watching you right now and just be aware of it. That's actually all you have to do, just be aware of it. And so being aware of only this is like it literally is La ilaha illallah because you're realizing it's like nothing else in the world can exist without this. Nothing else in the world can exist like independent from this. This is the only thing there is. I mean, even if you look at, for example, Surah Al Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad, like Allah is the one. And it's like this one, even when you're asleep, is there. This one is independent from having kids, independent from having parents, independent from everything. Everything. Like that's why they say Allah has created like everything in two pairs, everything in pairs, because Allah is the only one. So once you go back to this one being, bro, this one being, everything else that you've done up until this point gets fixed. And that's why they say it's like if you do Toba, As soon as you do Toba, if you had mountains, bro, if you had mountains of bad deeds, mountains of sins, all these mountains they turn into good. And what's so funny is that the reason why I told you in the beginning of this whole video is that like I truly believe that your path in the afterlife is basically judged upon like your path in this life. So if I mean obviously, right, like what's so wrong about the statements? So if right now you're having like you're always feeling guilty, that means your afterlife is not going to be good, which means once you go back to Allah, once you do tawbah, like become aware that Allah is here every single moment, and basically keep connecting with that every single moment because every moment is fresh. Once you keep connecting with that, you'll notice that in real time, by the way, not in the afterlife, in real time, also in the afterlife, but like in real time, you'll notice that everything else that you've done that's bad, immediately it starts to get fixed. Like let's just say you've hurt a lot of people, for example, or you've scammed a lot of people, right? As soon as you start going back to being aware that Allah is watching you in this present moment right now, it's almost like something like you activate something in the universe. Habibi, you're so powerful, bro. You're actually so powerful. Once you do this, it's almost like you send. Imagine I take a pebble and I throw it in the like in a pond or an ocean or a lake. You'll see there's going to be like a ripple effect that's being activated. So you doing this exact thing right now is like you taking a pebble and throwing it. That's something you're in control of. But the ripples, you're not in control of that. The ripples is what happens once you take the action by being aware of Allah. So these ripples is what happens once you immediately go back to Allah. These are the things, like everything that you've done that's bad, immediately it starts to get fixed up. And I'm saying immediately. That's why I always say, if you're in my Discord, by the way, I always say this. It's that you do realize there is no bad decisions. There's no wrong decisions. If you're facing two decisions, whatever decision you make, it's always the best. If you make this decision, Allah has already created your pathway in that decision as being already the best. If you go back to Allah, if you actually start like having the awareness that Allah is watching you right now, and if you take the other decision, same thing is gonna happen. Like there's no bad decisions. It's not like you make one decision and that decision is gonna lead you to bad things. Both of them are gonna lead you to similar things if you're aware that Allah is always watching you. And that's the beautiful thing, bro. Like think of it as like if you play chess. I play chess, by the way. So if you play chess, it's like sometimes people are like, which rook should I move? Should I move this rook or this rook? Because you're always like facing that decision every single game. And there's a grandmaster, I forgot who the name of the grandmaster, but he's like, bro, you realize it doesn't matter. Whatever rook you make, whatever rook you move, your opponent is always going to be reacting to that rook. So even if you move the other one, he's going to be reacting to that. So most of the time we move one of them, and then we start regretting. We're like, oh no, bro, I should have moved the other one. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because your opponent is only reacting because you moved that one. That's how life is. That's literally how this universe works. It's just reacting to the decisions you make. But then once you go back, Habibi, once you go back to realizing that Allah is watching you right now, and then you live your whole life, your entire life, like Allah is watching you right now, it's like there's nothing that you can do. Nothing that you can do that you can ever go wrong. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, it almost feels like you're playing a video game that you can never mess up. And that's basically how I'm living right now. It's like, bro, even if, for example, like, I don't want to give bad examples, but like, you crash a car, right? Hopefully no one dies, but like, you crash a car. That's not, like, who said that that's bad? That's not bad. It's just something that happens. Like, if you don't color it with these emotions that we always color things with, it's just a thing that happened. But then when you're aware of, like, Allah, automatically things get fixed up. And it's so funny because this is not something like I have to say it in words to help you understand it. It's just something that you have to live your life to actually know it. So, and bro, it's like, it seems, trust me, it seems so simple. It seems so simple. It's like some of you guys are going to come to me and be like, you're really telling me all I have to do is just be aware that Allah is watching me right now, and then things are going to be fixed up? Like all these wasted years that I have, it's all just automatically going to be fixed up? And I'm going to come and say, yes, bro. Yes, bro. My sheikh used to say, he used to say, if your God is confusing, then I don't want to believe in that God. So it's like, if God is not like simple, is it really God? Do you understand what I mean? So it's like, if this is not this simple, is it really the thing that's true? Do you understand what I mean? Because things that are true is supposed to be very simple. If something's too complicated, If something is complicated, it's because our minds have created it. Because our minds usually create things that are not simple. Because for some reason, our minds love complicated things. But if things are simple, that means it's true. Just so you know, if things are simple, that means it's true. And so the beauty of it sometimes is that people used to say, or they do say, that when you do Toba, your afterlife is going to be good. But I say, sure, your afterlife is going to be good, but we don't know, right? Because we're still not in the afterlife. So you can once again judge if it's good based on this life right now. So I say that this life is also going to be good. Trust me, this life is also going to be good. Now, by the way, this doesn't mean that once you do it, there's going to be like no more tests and all that stuff, no more hardships. Obviously, you're still going to have those, but in this way, when you start having these hardships that are going to come your way, it's almost like you'll tackle them, you'll handle them from a place of like where you're not even affected. Like things will happen, but you're not affected. So you'll feel like you're more powerful than your environment, and that's something that even Joe Dispenza talked a lot about this, bro. He's like the reason why most people can't break the habit of being themselves, why they can't change their lives, is because their environment is too great. Their environment is what's dictating their emotions and feelings and their thoughts. Once you become greater than your environment, that's when you're able to change everything within your environment, to change your whole life, to basically break the habit of being yourself. So if you hate yourself, it's because of the environment. So all you have to do is just be greater than your environment. In simpler words, listen, in simpler words, if right now you're living a life of poverty, like you don't really have a lot of money, that is the environment. So if you start living greater than that, that's how you get out of poverty. Once you do Toba, that's how you get out of poverty. And then you tell me, it's like, well, hold on a minute. You see a lot of people who are religious and stuff, they're not even that rich. And so I like to argue, it's like, it's because they don't really understand this. All they do is they just move their tongues, but they don't truly do this. Either that, or they just don't care about having money. Because once again, it's not always about money. A lot of you guys have been commenting when I talked about istighfar, how istighfar helps you make a lot of money and stuff. You guys were like, some of you guys were like, man, this life now is just about money and stuff and all that. Habibi, in the Quran, it literally used the word money, mal. It used the word money once you do istighfar. Like Allah is giving you that promise. If Allah is giving you that promise, just take it, bro. Stop being a dum dum. But also, it's like, sure, I understand that's not just like the point of life, but that's the thing that people struggle with the most. So if you're struggling with that, you have to be like, bro, you have to be greater than the environment that you're living in right now. And so once you do the simple thing that I'm showing you right now, which is just the awareness that Allah is watching you right now, the ripple effect is going to happen, and you'll notice automatically, without you even putting effort into things, things automatically just fix up by themselves, because that's the power of Allah. You don't really have to do anything. All you have to do, have the awareness that in this moment Allah is watching me. And then you'll notice too, it's like this is the moment where this is what's gonna happen, where like you won't really have to put much thought into things that you do. You'll just start flowing with the universe. That's all you'll do. Because now you're living your whole life from a state of, not from like a lack or from your mind. Because bro, your mind always lies to you, right? Your mind's always telling you, it's like, oh bro, you're broke, you're poor, you're depressed and all that stuff. But then when you're living from the state where you're always aware that Allah is here. By the way, that's what Ihsan is, just so you know. Ihsan, because there's Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. That's what Ihsan is. It's just living your life every moment like you can see Allah. And if you can't see Him, just know that He sees you. And that's the power of it. You're always aware that Allah is always seeing me. And that's all you have to do. And I'm being serious, bro. That's literally all you have to do. My whole channel is just about that. Every single video, it just goes back to this. Be aware that Allah is watching you right now.